Hello again, witches, seekers, and friends, and welcome to the Fat Feminist Witch Podcast, the show where we do a little ranting, raving, and wand waving. I'm your host, Paige Vanderbeck, and together we're going to explore magic and spirituality, social justice, the psychic realm, and truly modern witchcraft. Hello, my witchy friends, and welcome to 2021. I am so excited to be back today on the Fat Feminist Witch. Like, really, I missed it. I was so burnt out at the end of last year that I forgot a little bit how grateful I am to have this job, to have all of you listening. I'm super grateful. I tried to take January off to get my head right, get offline, get off the social media, and do some real witchcraft. And I kind of succeeded. By the end of 2020, I realized that most of the magic that I did, that I performed, was really just so I could, post it online or share it with you guys or use the experience, as research. I wasn't just practicing magic for me. I wasn't able to chill out and to really connect in meditation because real world stuff was just too much at the front of my mind. It took up too much space in my head. And as it turns out, in my opinion anyways, I have a little bit of an addiction to social media and to the waves of dopamine released by that instant gratification. So, that's a thing. With a year like we just had, this is probably something we've all been thinking though. There's very little to do. We're all supposed to be staying home by ourselves, and social media allows us to reach so many people all at the same time. But I think sometimes we forget about the difference between connecting and communicating online and with real people or with a person. It's just different. It's so much more intimate, and I think a lot of us are missing out on that kind of intimate connection. I'm sure I'm not the only one that tried to fill all my time with social media and movies and TV and just forget the wacky stuff in the news and stuff for a short amount of time. I'm sure I'm not the only one. I really needed to force myself to get online, and it wasn't until the middle of January that I realized I hadn't even done that. I was still going on Twitter every single day. I was just avoiding my responsibilities. So I'm excited to be back. And I did take a couple weeks really, really off the social media, and it helped. Now, all of this might seem like a weird thing to share on a podcast because we're online. And I'm talking to 1,000 of you at a time, but this is important stuff. The magic we're talking about today is very creative. It's very hands-on, and it's a type that I think is great for sharing. Some of it is also perfect for working by yourself, activating your physical and your psychic senses to fully immerse yourself in whatever magic you're working on. I think it's really fun. So let's dive into our magical topic of today, which is magical mixology, potions, perfumes, cocktails, and brews. A potion is, according to its use since the 14th century, just a mixture of liquids. But when we hear it, we imagine that resulting mixture, that liquid, to have magical, healing, or maybe even poisonous properties. It's not just a random mixture of liquids, but a mindful and intentional mixture with any variety of purposes. Some potions are meant to be drunk or worn as perfume and are boiling over with things like flavors and aromas. Others are meant more to be felt or even to be bathed in or used to wash, and they may look like plain, clear water, but they're both magic potions. In witchcraft, the methods and magic of potion making have almost unlimited applications. So I'm going to try and cover as much of this as possible. But I used a couple of books to research this episode, and I highly recommend you guys checking them out if you want to expand on any of this. So first is Witchcraft Cocktails by Julia Helena Hadass. And this actually inspired the episode. She emailed me and she offered to send me a copy of the book. And I did review the book. It's up on the blog at thefatfeministwitch.com. And it's got 5 crystal balls because it was fantastic. It's a wonderful book. I really, really enjoyed it. And since we're coming up on Valentine's Day, I decided to pick out a couple of the love and lust themed magical cocktails from Julia's book, and I'm just going to pepper them throughout the episode, so keep your ears open, all my lovebirds and sex witches out there. I've got some potions for you. The next book is Blackthorn's Botanical Brews by Amy Blackthorn, and like her previous books on sacred smoke and essential oils, the book is really, really thorough, it's well written, and it gives you all the information you could need to actually get started making potions and brews of all kinds at home. Now this one's getting a review also, but it'll come a little later in the month. I don't want to throw too much at you guys right away, right? But if you've ever wondered about the magical properties of individual alcohols or liquors, or more accurately, I guess, the botanicals that those are made from, that book has all of it. Both books taught me a lot, though, about alcohol and about how it's made and how it's mixed that I didn't know at all. Super interesting, even if you're not a big drinker. If you dig the idea of using fancy cocktails in your magic, another book that I recommend is The Mixology of Astrology by Aliza Kelly. This book, it gives you basically every cocktail recipe out there, and it divides them by zodiac sign and tells you what about that drink resonates with that sign. I thought it was really, really fun and interesting, even the signs that aren't mine, you know? One of my favorite things was when you go to the Libra section, gin and juice is there. And the reason is because Snoop Dogg is, obviously a Libra himself. And right next to Snoop Dogg's gin and juice is my Libra friend's favorite drink, which is rum and Coke. Very simple, right? Those are the Libras. Lots of balance. And in the Capricorn section, my own favorite cocktail is right there, which is the coffee martini. So wild. I should not drink coffee martinis, but I just think they're so lovely and decadent. And Aliza's a really good astrologer. I follow her Patreon, so I found it super accurate all the way through and generally just really interesting and really fun. My own books, Green Witchcraft and the Grimoire Journal, also feature recipes for potions because I love potions. So there's a beauty potion with red clover in Green Witchcraft and magical massage oils using crystals and other oils in Grimoire Journal. And of course, I highly recommend both books, but I admit I'm biased. So, as I said, the word potion kind of first appears around the 14th century. But, like most of our words, it is descended from the Latin word potare, which means to drink. This is also where we got the word potable or potable, meaning something is drinkable. I definitely think first of our potable potions, things we drink like magical tea or coffee. But perfumes, baths, topical oils and lotions, sprays, and washes, both for washing yourself or for objects, all fall under the umbrella of potions. In general, there's no specific ingredient or method that you have to do that to make a liquid into a potion. The only thing you really need is your intent, your intention. Your own magical energy is what powers the potion as usual. The plants, crystals, minerals, flavors, smells, the ingredients you use are all there to support your intention and your purpose. So let's begin with our individual potions here. Let's start where most of our witchy minds go when someone mentions a magic potion. And this is tea. Tea is the official beverage of modern witchcraft, right? With loose leaf tea being the king. Even those of us who aren't big tea drinkers have a variety of or a flavor that we reach to in certain moments when we need it. When I started to feel myself coming down with something, I'm sure you can all hear it. It's just my sinuses, nothing serious. I instantly started brewing up a daily cup of my lemon ginger tea that I fill up with honey from a bear. Just so you know, it doesn't have to be classy. I think honey is better in a bear. I also do this when recording, if my throat gets dry or gets sore, or I anticipate that. I actually have a cup of tea right here. Lemon and ginger tea is packed with vitamin C and, antioxidants. And then that wonderful heat from the ginger, all of that is great for the throat and anything cold and sinus related, right? Because when you swallow it, you definitely feel that heat up top. And really, it has healing properties, physical healing properties, as does the honey. Honey is great for your throat, even just as is. Just swallowing a little bit of honey or, sucking on a honey lozenge, those can really help soothe your throat. These things also have magical properties. And I can turn my own cup of, I'm sick AF tea into a magic potion for healing or communication, success, even attracting love, or counteracting the effects of Mercury retrograde, which Mercury is retrograde right now. I believe it goes direct, the 21st of February, so we got some time. Lemon is your kind of main smell or anything when you are looking to counteract Mercury retrograde. It's very mentally and spiritually cleansing, and that can be straight up lemon, it could be lemongrass, as long as it's lemony, citronella, all of those. That's why it's a major ingredient in Van oil, which is a hoodoo oil recipe for uncrossing, meaning it sets up those mixed up and messed up things right. For me, it's my Mercury retrograde go-to. And when my words are getting mixed up or they're not coming out right or I'm having trouble figuring out what I want to say, I'll brew a cup of the lemon ginger and, just pour all my wishes and intentions into the cup and mindfully drink the whole thing before I continue. Taking a break is always good when you're getting frustrated, right? That's just common sense. And when you take the time with the tea to really focus and bring that tea in, you feel like you're full of that lemon and that ginger and that honey, and it's all coming out of you. And Mercury can't fuck with you now. It's a wonderful feel. Ginger and honey are also really great ingredients for love and passion potions. So a cup of the same tea could also be used to help you get clear on what kind of relationship you want to attract, bring it to you, or help you stay, eloquent and romantic and authentic on your date. The possibilities really are endless when it comes to tea. Tea is incredibly popular. Incredibly popular in magic. And I think it's just because we love plants so much. We love plants. I will admit that I am more of a coffee drinker than a tea drinker. But like I said, whenever I get sick, tea is what I instantly go for. When it's late at night and it's kind of chilly, I'm not going to drink a coffee, right? A hot cup of tea is the only thing possible that I could grab that's nice and warm like that. I'm not a super big hot chocolate fan. So, all of that is fantastic. Tea also has real physical effects on your body that are obvious and that are measurable. So they have a real effect. So a magical cup of healing tea, because tea is big in healing, can really help someone feel better inside and out. All you need is the right ingredients and then a well thought out intention. Now, before those of you who are knowledgeable about tea and big tea fans crawl up my butt here, the lemon ginger tea I described is technically not tea. I know, my fellow coffee drinkers are shocked to find out that it's not all just tea. We've come to describe any cup of hot plant water that isn't coffee, tea, but technically, tea contains leaves from the tea plant, Camellia sinensis. Black, white, and green tea, as well as some other ones like the rooibos and stuff, are all made with leaves from this plant, the tea plant, just grown or processed differently. Black tea is allowed to fully oxidize after being picked. And that releases enzymes that give it, that rich brown color and bring out all those tannins. That's what happens there. Green tea goes through processing right away. So green tea leaves are often steamed or pan-fried shortly after they're plucked And this leaves them nice and green. And the tea that they produce a light green flavor. It's also less of a deep or rich flavor than the black tea. White tea is your least processed leaf, and it doesn't get a chance to oxidize at all. I also learned, super interesting, that plants that are destined for white tea are often grown in shadier areas, and that makes the leaves taste sweeter. So white tea has a really delicate flavor, which is why you often find it combined with other things, right, to give it a real flavor. I like it combined with peach. Peach white tea is something I see a lot, and I just absolutely love it. So that white tea just boosts and sweetens the peach flavor. It's really good. I think it would make a great iced tea as well, but even hot, it's like drinking a peach cobbler. I love that. Caffeine, our lovable caffeine, naturally occurs in the tea plant. And I was under the impression that black tea retained lots of caffeine because of its whatever processing, and white and green varieties don't have it. And this isn't actually true. Any color of tea can have caffeine in it. A lot of factors go into whether or not your tea is caffeinated or extra caffeinated or not at all. And you can, if you get your tea from a box, it will tell you if it's caffeinated and also what temperature to brew it at to make sure it stays uncaffeinated. So, as I said, I don't know a lot about tea. So I consulted the Mountain Rose Herbs blog, and I thought this list of how your tea is caffeinated was really interesting. So I'm just going to read it to you. So factors that go into your tea being caffeinated. Growing conditions. Teas that are shade grown, such as the popular green variety matcha, are almost always higher in caffeine than other varieties, regardless of color. The cut size also is a factor. Tea leaves cut into smaller pieces release caffeine quicker than whole leaf varieties because of the decreased surface area while steeping in hot water. So those super cheap black tea bags where that tea is basically a dust, you're actually getting more caffeine in your drink than you would be if those leaves were looser and larger. So depending on how long you let it steep, the water temperature also affects it. So if you use water that has reached boiling temperature, your cup of tea will be more caffeinated than if you brew or steep it at a lower temperature. So those of you trying to avoid the caffeine, that's a good tip. And the part of the plant used in the tea makes a difference for, caffeine. So the top leaves of the tea plant, the top fresh new leaves, these are usually more caffeinated than the leaves at the lower end of the plant. There's also a kind of tea, it's kokicha tea, naturally lower in caffeine because it's made up of the twigs from the tea plant instead of the leaves. So it's got a completely different flavor, and it's lower in caffeine because caffeine is mainly in the leaves and the fruit of plants that it occurs in. What really blew me away is the temperature thing. I just had no idea, right? I just had no idea. That's so interesting to me. So when you make a cup of tea, like I do, with different herbs and botanicals or fruits and little or no tea plant, this is actually called a tisane or tisane, whatever, tisane. So if you are a not regular tea drinker, that box of herbal tea in your cupboard that has no tea in it, I guarantee if you pull it out, it says tisane in small print. So my lemon ginger, the hibiscus iced tea I like in the summer, the peppermint tea I drink when I feel nauseated, all tisanes. It's not super important to know, but I just think it's interesting. This is just one of the many things that make tea. Tea is so much more than a drink, Tea, for some people, it's an entire lifestyle. Or tea is their whole medicine cabinet. All of the medicines that they use are brewed as teas. Tea is the morning cup of joe or the morning cup of energy that a lot of people drink. Instead of, whatever, coffee or whatever we do. Tea is also a thing that a lot of people share with friends. My sister does not come here and ask me to make her a black tea because I don't really have it. I don't drink a lot of plain black tea. I have a cupboard full of a million silly fruity varieties, of course, but I don't have, the orange pekoe or the Earl Grey. But when she is with friends who like tea, they sit there and they drink a million cups of it and it's ready to go as soon as they get there. It's just a whole different lifestyle sometimes. And in general, I find tea to just be so much more than a drink, especially in magic when we know that there's so much more to all of those herbs and leaves and sticks, Now, before we continue talking about tea, I am not an expert. Just a quick disclaimer. There are so many varieties of teas and tisanes. The plant itself, human beings have been cultivating the tea plant around the world for thousands of years. It originated in Asia and China. But it's different everywhere you go. Darjeeling tea from India, considered one of the best black teas in the world. It's made from that Camellia sinensis plant, brought by the British from China to the Darjeeling region of India, where it gets its name. Colonization, but that's how it happened. And it's usually made into black tea, but they are breaching out into, other colors. So it's technically the same black tea, the same plant, but the differences in things like climate, farming and methods and seasons, it just makes it different to those who are in the know when it comes to tea. So what I'm saying here is there is a lot to learn and discover about tea in general. So don't stop your research at me, because I can only take you so far. Keep going. The history of tea is actually pretty interesting and a little exciting and even heartbreaking because of its role in colonization. I actually didn't plan to say this much about tea today, but I just thought it was neat stuff. So you're welcome. Anyways, magic with tea. Whether you're making, a proper tea or an herbal or fruity tisane, there are magical properties associated with all of the ingredients. So with a little research, it's possible to mix up specific and custom cups of magical tea. And these are potions. The tea plant itself is aligned with the energies of healing, mental clarity, cleansing, connecting you to your psychic self, increased courage, prosperity, and love. Black tea has a very strong and energetic energy, right? It's got a lot of vitality going. While green's energy is very healing and very cleansing. White tea is very delicate, clarifying, really good for heightening psychic abilities and connecting with the spiritual world. I also find the fact that it's sweeter and it's usually combined with fruits or flowers. I find it to be kind of romantic, the white tea. But that's the tea plant. Then we have chamomile tea. Chamomile tea is just chamomile flowers. But chamomile has a real, detectable calming effect on us. And in magic, it's great for sleep and dream magic, but it's also very protective and lucky. It's aligned with the water element and also the sun. Really fun. On one side, you have calming and peaceful energy, and on the other, you have fast luck, courage, and healing. Peppermint tea is great physically for stomach aches, nausea, or headaches. You can sip at a big old cup of peppermint tea, but I don't dig that. So what I actually do is mix up a small cup of fairly strong peppermint tea. I take time, while it's cooling off to really breathe in that lovely steam, and then I shoot it back. And it works every time. Honestly, it does. Magically speaking, mint is great for good luck, for travel, communication, and prosperity. It's great for attracting money. It's an air element plant, so it's also very good for Mercury retrograde or breaking up stale and chaotic energy. I also find it very, when I'm taking the time to breathe in that steam, I find it very clarifying for my head. Maybe that's why it works for headaches, right? It just it feels like it clears out all the stuff that's on my mind that doesn't need to be right now. And I love that about peppermint tea. Hibiscus tea, as far as I'm concerned, is just a love potion. Again, hibiscus tea is just hibiscus flowers dried with water. But hibiscus, I love it. It's got such a unique flavor. It's red and fruity with a little bit of, bite. It's bitey. I think it's really neat. Nothing else tastes like hibiscus, right? So if you guys want a sexy love potion with hibiscus, in the Grimoire journal on page 77, check out the Enchanted Heart Hibiscus Tea recipe. It's an iced tea recipe that combines that love with a little bite from the hibiscus with, that super sticky, sweet flavor of mango, the nectar. I actually made up this recipe because I found like a commercial brand of tea that was, hibiscus mango iced tea. I think it was, like Pure Leaf or whatever. I found it at grocery stores. I became obsessed, but I could see that it was limited edition and it was about to disappear. So I was like, oh man, I got to figure this out. So I figured out a recipe, and I actually like mine better because I go a little heavy on the mango, but whatever. That's why I created that recipe. But hibiscus and mango are both associated with love in their home countries. So hibiscus is associated with love in Hawaii, and mango is associated with love and sex and passion in India, where it's from. Combined, you have really cool love potion. It's, it's got that sexy, that passionate vibe, but it's also, hibiscus is it's got a very chill kind of vibe. It's a flower of love of all kinds, romantic, platonic, familial. It just makes you feel very loved. It's calming. The whole drink together is kind of soft because of the nectar, and it's really good at bringing people together. I like it anyways. Like I said, I know I'm biased. Another great tea ingredient, or design ingredient for love and passion, I just like saying it now, is rose hips. Rose hips are the fruit, the little berry that's produced on rose bushes, right under those big gorgeous flowers that you don't look past. So the berry can actually be eaten raw, but the little hairs that are in it, don't eat those. Those are an ingredient in itching powder because they will make you itchy all the way in. Don't do that. So you can also take out the hairs and cook the rose hips into pies or syrups or jams. They can also be dried for tea. Rose hips, are just packed with vitamin C. They have so much of it. And they also have beta carotene. So they're really good for your eyes, your skin, your immune system. And rose hips have even been shown to help lower cholesterol for people who are, working on that. Rose hips are actually in a lot of different teas that you buy. You often find it with hibiscus. And they both have a very light and floral, red flavor that's just sweet enough and has a little bit of that bite. So they're great for attracting love, helping to sweeten the love you've got, and opening your heart to love in all its forms. I actually used to buy a bath salt combo for opening your psychic senses and, opening your heart chakra and all that kind of stuff. And it had rose hip berries, like the full ones, dried out in the salt. And they just gave this nice little pink color to the bath that I really liked. So sometimes I'll add them to my baths for the same kind of vibe, right? Unfortunately, not all of our magical plants taste good, in tea or otherwise. But they can still be added to teas in smaller quantities to, work in a specific intention. mugwort is commonly recommended to be brewed into a tea to open the third eye and to induce psychic dreaming. Now, I say this as a mugwort super fan. It tastes like ass. Like, I'm laughing, but I'm not joking. It really is not good. It's a very bitter flavor. And I don't know why. I can't drink mugwort tea at all. Every time I've tried it, with various different ingredients, I feel nauseated. My stomach just doesn't like it. I'm not sure why. It's also unsafe for pregnant people to drink mugwort, as it can cause problems. It's an abortifacient. It can really cause problems. So do not consume mugwort if you're pregnant. Don't. That said, when it's combined with things like blackberries or peppermint or lemon, you don't taste the mugwort as much. Having a small amount in there that doesn't, affect your flavor or your belly can still help you get in touch, with your psychic senses, with the spirit world, with your third eye. Lavender is a tastier flower that also opens the third eye, though it's not quite as strong, magically speaking. But lavender tea before bed can help you sleep better, can open your upper chakras to the spiritual world as you sleep. So your crown chakra, your third eye, this can help you with psychic dreaming or receiving spiritual messages in your sleep. And if you look on the back of the box, you'll actually notice that many commercially made sleepy time tea blends do have a little bit of lavender, along with chamomile and maybe mint. These little bags are awesome for magic because all of those herbs have just a wealth of uses, right? A lot of uses. All of those herbs have healing properties. They have really positive vibes. They help you attract things in life. They can, help induce dreams, and they have protective, spiritually protective vibes. So those little tea bags, even if you're not going to drink it, I will totally just crack open one of those tea bags and use it as an herbal blend for a candle or to put in a mojo bag or something. Working with tea magic doesn't actually have to be complicated. You can totally start with the box tea from your grocery store, whatever. You can also seek out loose leaf teas if you want to see a little bit more of the plant that you're working with. And you can even find tea companies that release witchy and magical teas. My friend Mia at theforestwitch.ca makes really, really tasty and really pretty magical tea blends that I highly recommend. I like them as someone who doesn't drink a lot of tea, but really likes to enjoy that cup when she makes it. The flavors are always great. They're really potent. They're really delicious. The teas smell amazing. And on her website, she will give you the magical rundown on the blends and what's in them and, the kind of magical vibes that they have. I also recently signed up with a new advertiser called Bright Witch Brews. So cute, right? And the creator is sending me some samples right now. So I'll let you know how it goes. I haven't tried the tea yet. But on the website, it says that they add edible sparkle dust to the teas. And I'm so down with sparkly tea. That sounds super fun. And they have blends named after moon phases and solstices. The ingredients sound pretty good. They have a lot with fruit which is what I like. So I'm pretty excited to try it. And I'm a nerd, but I'm also really excited to make a really sparkly commercial for it. So check out brightwitch.com. Again, I haven't tried the tea, but give it a try. Why not? Once you have your tea ingredients, it's time to apply some element of ritual to the creation and the drinking of your cup of tea. I like to use, a particular fancy clear teapot for magic. I love seeing the color of the tea as it steeps. I love color, right? I always like to incorporate it in some way. So that clear teapot is really cool. And when I use tea in a spell, the time I take to drink it is just as important as the time I spent making the blend, pouring my cup, or even figuring out what I want from it. When I do any sort of tea ritual, I sit at an empty table, away from electronics or anything that might distract me. I will combine it a lot of times with tarot or oracle cards or journaling. I'll do that as I sip my tea. That time is so great for, just contemplation, getting deep in within, that really warm feeling of the tea. You can feel the tea going down your throat. And some teas, they have, just like perfumes, they have base notes and top notes, and the flavor changes the longer you sit with it. Very interesting. But you can just, it feels like you're reaching inside yourself with it. So the tea itself can be your entire spell. I know from experience that anxiety, fear, and depression can keep you from manifesting your most magical life on the best of days. And witches, these days are not the best. That's why if you're struggling or feeling lost, I want you to consider reaching out to a professional licensed therapist through BetterHelp. Within 24 hours, they'll assess your needs and match you with a therapist that is specially trained to deal with everything from depression and anxiety to grief, conflicts at home, and even sexuality and gender across the spectrum. It's all online, so there's no awkward social distancing in the waiting room. You're in the comfort and safety of home. You can message your therapist anytime and schedule weekly audio or video chat sessions. The service is available worldwide. It's more affordable than in-person therapy, and they offer financial aid to those who need it. Lately, so many people have been reaching out that BetterHelp is actually recruiting more counselors in all 50 states right now. I want you to manifest the life of your dreams, starting today. As a listener, you can get 10% off your first month by visiting betterhelp.com/fatfeministwitch. Join over 1 million people taking charge of their mental health. Again, that's BetterHelp, HELP.com/fatfeministwitch. Mindfully drinking your tea and focusing on your intention or sharing it with the person for whom it was intended are perfect ways to use your potion. To infuse the drink with your intent, you can hold your hands over the cup and imagine sending that energy through your hands into the drink. You can picture a color of light that aligns with your spell if that helps. You can also say a prayer or an invocation over the cup, charge it on your altar or under the moon. You can dedicate it to a spirit or god, or you can create a label on the outside of the container or create a special container with magical words or symbols on the outside to have it be, your magic cup, your magic mug, your special mug. That's already a practice I'm sure you're familiar with. So I love coffee. This is no secret, as I think I probably mention it in every episode at this point. I've talked about making magic with your coffee before, and even wrote a whole blog post on how to spell your coffee, and I'll link to that in the description. So instead of repeating all that and rambling at you, instead I'm going to share a recipe from WITCHCRAFT Cocktails by Julia Helena Hadass, and this is the Love Witches Brew. It combines coffee with rose petals, cinnamon, cardamom, and vanilla for a really potent love potion. This recipe is alcohol-free, but about 9 pages later in the book, Julia also tells you how to Irish it up with some whiskey and turn it into a tool of love divination. So, Love Witches Brew. Coffee grounds and beans have been used throughout history to divine the future, just as people read tea leaves. With the addition of cardamom, rose petals, cinnamon, and vanilla syrup, you have a lightly spiced, potent love spell to pass on to a lover, use for divining love, or just start your day energized and in a lovely mood no matter how dreary the weather beyond your door may be. Make that coffee habit a part of your witchcraft. For a sweeter flavor, add cream to the finished drink before sipping, which of course I would always do. So the energies for this potion are love, lust, and divination. The ingredients are 5 tablespoons of ground coffee beans, half a teaspoon ground rose petals, quarter teaspoon ground cinnamon, half a teaspoon ground cardamom, 2.5 cups of hot water, and 3 tablespoons of vanilla syrup, which she gives you a recipe for in the beginning of the book. So mix your ground coffee, your rose petals, cinnamon, and cardamom together in a medium bowl. Trace an eye for psychic abilities into the mixture, then place your hands over the symbol and activate it with deep, intention-filled breaths, or by visualizing light channeling into the eye from your hands. Place the mixture in a French press and add hot water. Let sit for 3 minutes and pour into a tempered glass or mug. Add syrup and stir. Of course, you can use whatever coffee maker you use. You can put this in a regular coffee maker and have it brew through it. You can use the pour over method, whatever is best for you. If you are someone who uses instant coffee, I recommend putting your rose petals, cinnamon, and cardamom in like a tea bag or a tea ball, I guess, and using that in your coffee. Now, she gives you this beautiful recipe, add your syrup and stir. She also gives you a bit of advanced magic. So she recommends working with pink calcite along with your Love Witch's Brew. She says pink is a color of love and beginnings, and it can add a layer of loving magic to this divination potion. Utilize the vibration of this color and its power with pink calcite. Gaze upon the heart-opening stone as you mix your cocktail. Isn't that lovely? And if you're making it as a gift, obviously you can have, pink calcite nearby on the table, on display somewhere, to just kind of, bump up those energies. To Irish it up, as I said, to turn it into love divination coffee. You mix some of your Love Witch's Brew with heavy cream, Irish whiskey, vanilla, a little more of that vanilla syrup, and then you can put some whipped cream and ground nutmeg on top for garnish. And she recommends a pink crystal for this one as well, but it's morganite. Morganite is a stone that opens up the heart chakra, both to universal love and to wisdom from the divine and one's guides. Whether using your enchanted cocktail for love divination or to induce love, using this crystal can help open your heart. Hold the morganite in your hand while mixing and keep it in your pocket or by your heart as you sip. Isn't that lovely? Morganite's actually, that's a crystal I don't have. I don't have any pieces of morganite, but it's very pretty. It's lovely. It's also very expensive, so I never considered it, that important. But for whatever reason, the last couple months, it's really been popping up a lot. I see it places. When I'm thinking, what kind of crystal could I use for this? Morganite fits, it checks more boxes than anything else seems to. So I think I need to pick myself up a piece, and I will definitely make some love divination coffee to play with my morganite just because. So that's a really awesome, a really cool, really beautiful example of using coffee in a spell or as a potion. There is a beautiful picture. So most of the cocktails in this book do include incredible pictures. The photography is really, really something special in this book. And Love Witch's Brew it's one of my favorites in the whole book. Just the cups and saucers and everything she's using. Really pretty. So I will add pictures to, social media, Instagram, maybe the description of the podcast so that you guys can see how pretty of a potion you can make with it. So we're going to come back to cocktails a little bit later. I'm going to give your mouth a chance to stop watering for a little bit and talk about potions for the body. So perfumes, oils, and baths. Some people don't necessarily consider a bath to be a potion, but maybe they're just not making up their baths like I do. So sometimes I will create a specific blend of salts and oils and herbs beforehand. But for most of my baths, I mix these things into the bath water as I'm standing over the filling tub. I come to the bath and I'm like, what is it that I need from this bath? And I'll put together some ingredients for that. Last time was so funny. You would have laughed. I mixed all of my stuff into the tub, and I grabbed a long-handled wooden brush for my body that I use to just kind of, mix it around, make sure the salt got everywhere, make sure everything got dissolved. And I really felt like a Macbeth witch standing over a bubbling cauldron with a giant wooden spoon, cackling. It was so fun. So, so bath magic is absolutely potion magic for sure. When it comes to what you put into the tub, it can be as simple or as complicated as you like. Salt is something that almost everyone puts into their bath at this point. And salt, no matter which variety you choose, has magical cleansing and healing properties. It pulls things out, it separates things, and it can even kill things. Epsom salt is really, really good for your muscles physically. And also I feel like metaphysically, Epsom salt really helps to drain things out of you, like tiredness or like body type fatigue. You know what I mean? Like when you've had a really long, a really arduous day, I feel like Epsom salt really kind of helps your muscles relax and also clears away how difficult that was. Sea salt cleans out the sinuses. Trust me, mine don't sound clear, but they sound a lot clearer than they did before a few days ago when I started using my neti pot with saline solution to start clearing out the sinuses. Sea salt also makes you sweat and it cleans your skin. So it's detoxifying. Himalayan salt does all of that, and bonus, it's pink. I like to use all three in the bath. I decide which one I'm going to use, like, as I'm standing there over the tub. I'm a person who tends to remain in the tub just far too long. I will end up drying out my skin like crazy later, so I also almost always add oil to the bath, but you don't have to. If you like, you can add whatever oil that you like, even baby oil, olive oil from the kitchen, whatever. I use sweet almond oil or olive oil. I can't use coconut because I'm allergic, but if you have a coconut oil that, make sure that your bath is warm enough to, make it into a liquid versus a solid. You just have to have the right kind of coconut oil there. But my sweet almond and the olive oil, they both have Venetian energy, meaning they're really aligned with energies like love and beauty and attracting things to you. They're used in abundance magic a lot. And I love that vibe. So I like to add that to the bath almost every single time. It has multi-purposes. I sometimes also add baking soda to soften the water, but because my bath water is kind of hard. But when I'm trying to take a bath for cleansing or clarity, I leave out the baking soda because I like the water to be fairly clear. I don't put a lot of colors. I don't have a lot of bubbles for cleansing and clarity. I like to have water that looks fairly clear. The association just sticks better for me. Then we have the smells. You do not have to smell anything in your bath if you don't want. You can still make a magical bath potion with just salt and intention, right? But I like smells. I love smells, actually. Doing this episode, I'm going to end up talking even more about smells as we go. I think I'm going to have to do a whole episode about it. But anyways, I often add rose water to my bath and then a few drops of an essential oil or even one of my witchy oil blends that I buy or that I make. The ones I buy, I always make sure they're body safe. They're ones that you can wear as a perfume, even if I only intend to put it on a candle because, I use my hands to apply it, right? If you are not into scents, don't want a lot of really strong fragrance, but want to include some magical plants and botanicals into your bath, you can make up what is basically a bath tea bag. So you fill it with whatever plants or flowers that you like. You hang it over the tap as the bath is filling. And you'll have a slight floral or herbal smell, kind of like tea, but nothing very long lasting. Nothing super strong. Nothing that is going to get into your head or distract you. For me, when I do add smells, I like to add flowers to the bath anyways. Flowers that aren't going to make a lot of smell, but that I like to, whose energy I like to have there with me. So like rose petals, super common. I also like to gather magnolia petals when the trees are blooming, jasmine flowers, little teeny tiny heather flowers, dried patchouli because that actually does smell like patchouli oil but is a lot more subtle, chamomile, and even rose hips. Like I said, they can make the water pink if you put them in there and have a nice warm bath. You can even add potions that you've already created to your bath potions, right? So you can make a magical oil blend or a magical water and add that to your bath. If you ever charge water under the full moon, you can add that to any potion, whether you drink it or bathe in it, really. But it is nice to have a little bit of that in your bath water. You can also charge plain water under the sun, the stars, during particular events like meteor showers or solstices. one of the Sabbats, an eclipse, a special day even, Beltane moon water, very cool and fun and sexy. Summer solstice sun-charged water, that is so like, I can just imagine the energy you would feel from that. That would be such an energizing bath. You can collect snow or ice from the first snowfall, you can make yourself a nice Yule or wintertime bath. This is nice because it doesn't stay cold, but it connects you a little bit to wintertime, to this dark, chill time of year. In a similar vein are essences and elixirs. These are a combination of water and sometimes alcohol as a preservative. And what they are is a potion that contains the spiritual essence of a plant or of a crystal, while not including any actual physical matter. So you can get essences made from poisonous plants as a safe way of working with them, of getting to know their spirit, of including them in their practice. Or you can make gem and crystal elixirs, so you can enjoy the energy of crystals that are not safe to put in water, in your baths, in your beverages, or just when you don't have access to the crystal itself. Gem and crystal elixirs are they're one of my favorite tools in magic, and they're one of my favorite magical crafts, one of my favorite things to make. The first time I created one, it was one of those moments where you really feel that magic, right? I really felt it. And it's so simple to do, and every time I've tried since then, it's been just as fun and just as rewarding of a craft. So on a nice sunny day, fill up a clear glass container, a nice big cup or a mason jar, whatever, with nice fresh water. Surround that container with crystals whose energy you want to infuse in the water. Don't put them in the water unless you know for 100% sure that they are safe. The only ones that you can know for sure are probably safe are quartz, varieties of quartz. Aquamarine and a few other beryl varieties can be put in water, but not all. Most of the crystals I'm about to mention cannot get wet at all. So this first time I used pyrite, amazonite, fluorite, and a few other crystals that help you make the best of the energy of Mercury retrograde, that can calm down some of the chaotic energy. And it came to feel like a luck potion by the time I was done. It had a very sparkly and giddy kind of energy, even though it was technically, it's plain water. I know it's water. But when I took a sip, I would swear it was carbonated. It made me giggle. It felt a little bubbly in my mouth, So you leave your water in the sun for a few hours after you've really infused it with the energy from those crystals. I knew mine was ready, quote unquote, because when I looked in the glass, there was rainbows reflected all throughout it, no matter what angle I looked at it from. There were nice little air bubbles coming up to the surface. It just felt ready. And when I looked at it, I'm like, I'm so pumped for this. And you're very excited. It's like when the timer goes off on the oven, I jumped up and I was like, yeah, we're good. So it's a fun little, it's a fun moment. It's a magical moment, And that is, to this day, one of the most effective potions that I ever created. And I've continued to make the recipe. I will still put it in baths or in drinks for good luck. I use it a lot during Mercury retrograde. I'll put just a little bit of it on a cloth, not enough to soak it, right? And wipe down, my computer or my phone when electronics are acting really silly. I will drink it before I have to, talk or communicate or express myself. And it's really important that I get it right. There's a lot of different ways that you can use the essences. They don't have any flavor. They don't have any smell. So they can go into anything and turn it into a magical potion. When it comes to magical baths, there are, two distinct types of magical baths. Ones that cover you in a particular energy, and baths that clear energies away from you. So a very salty bath is very cleansing, while a bath full of oils and fragrances that, leave a lot of, you feel the oil and you can smell the fragrances on you after you leave the bath. It leaves energy lingering in a good way. So a magical cleansing bath for me would be salty. Just a little bit of oil just so I don't dry myself out. And I would use really clear scents like mint or lemon and eucalyptus, or something like the rose water, which is, it's not very heavy. It's not very perfumey. This is not a bath to sit and stew in for very long. You know, right? This is a bath that you want to make sure you get all parts of you clean. You want to still feel that nice warm vibe of sitting in a bath. But when it comes time to get out, this is when you really collect your energy and you focus. You focus on that water going down the drain, and you imagine it taking whatever it is that you're trying to cleanse with it. All going. When you're doing a bath to help you attract something, you might add a little less salt or stick with a pink salt. Add a little more oil. Add a few more fragrances, something that will stay on you. And then the part of the bath that you ritualize is filling it up and getting it in and getting into it. So you focus your intentions and you imagine them filling the tub with the water and with the ingredients that you add. Then you get in and you feel yourself surrounded by this energy. You can, lift it up with your hands, get it all over your body, dunk your face into it, and get it all over you. And when you get out, the fragrance, the feeling of the bath will stay with you. And that keeps the spell going. Makes you a little bit of a magnet, right? When it comes to the perfumes and the oils that you put in there are also two similar functions. Oil that attracts something to the oil and oil that repels things. So prosperity oil, money oil, this is meant to bring money in, while protection oil is meant to keep threats out. You can make magical oil blends using a carrier oil like the sweet almond or the olive that I mentioned earlier, jojoba oil, coconut oil, and you mix it with essential oils from botanicals that match your purpose. This is also a really cost-effective way to get the most out of your essential oils. They're so concentrated, right? When you make a blend like this, the potion's only about 3% essential oil, and the rest is your carrier oil and a little bit of vitamin E that you add as a preservative. So you get the strong fragrance from your oil, but you've got, a whole bottle to use out of just those few drops that you added. Because the smell just, all of it takes on the smell and the properties of the oils that you use. So in my book, The Grimoire Journal, I've got a recipe for an anointing oil. And it tells you how to use that same method to create any kind of magical oil blend. But this one includes essential oils of frankincense, myrrh, patchouli, and sandalwood. These are all very spiritual botanicals that are burned in churches and temples all over the world. And together they make this oil blend, this potion, very deep and meditative. That's what makes it good for just about any magical purpose. You can also create herbal infused oils by cooking or steeping the plant matter in your carrier oil. This is often how herbal balms and salves begin. So to make an herbal infused oil, combine 1 cup of olive oil and add 1 ounce in equal parts of your herb. So healing herbs. This is a recipe that I use. So 1 ounce in equal parts healing herbs: comfrey, St. John's wort, plantain, mugwort, and calendula. You can put it into a mason jar and put it in the sun for 3 to 6 weeks for it to cure. Or you can set up a double boiler over the stove and cook it at a really, really low heat for hours, for as long as, you absolutely can. No less than 2 hours. But if you can do it a few hours a day over 2 days, that's even better. So this oil has actual physical plant matter that provides physical healing. And all of those herbs also have magical properties. It's not going to smell like every individual one. It's not going to smell like a perfume made from St. John's wort. It's going to smell, I think it just smells very, very green. It smells green. So you can add an essential oil to this, like lavender, which is really good for healing and has antibacterial properties, and also opens the third eye and the crown chakras. And now you have this incredible healing oil that you can do anything with. Now, if you mix that with beeswax, you'll have a salve or a balm. These aren't as fragrant, like I said, but they do have more of the actual plant. So they combine physical healing with, the magical essences of the plant. When you're making magical oil blends, it can be a little costly to get started. It can. Even if you are using oils that are easy for you to get to, like an olive oil. Essential oils, depending on what they are, can be incredibly expensive. Rose essential oil is basically like outpriced. It's priced me out of purchasing it. And you often have to use things like rose geranium instead. And having that stuff so that you can whip up your own magical oils, a carrier oil and some essential oils, is so great. It's fantastic. You can follow recipes. You can make stuff up yourself. But you can also buy really good pre-made oil blends. I like the ones from Coventry Creations and also Beau Magique. So again, links in the description. And I've talked about Beau Magique before. Beau Magique is here in Ontario and Coventry Creations is in Ferndale, Michigan, which is actually, I think it would be a faster drive for me to go to Coventry than it would be to go up to Beau Magique. Anyway, the oils can be worn as a perfume, added to baths. They can be added to other oils. They can be added to mists and sprays. And of course, they can be used to dress and anoint your magical candles or any other magical object. Some of my favorite oil potions. And in Hoodoo has set recipes for particular oils, for particular potions. And those are mostly what I buy from Beau Magique. Lots of really fantastic, authentic Hoodoo condition oils. And Van oil is one of my absolute favorites. It's very lemony, lemongrass and citronella, and etc. I put a drop on my throat during times like this, like Mercury retrograde. Before speaking, if I'm having trouble recording, even I will, grab some Van oil and I will just, rub it on my throat and calm myself down. I can also put that oil on a blue candle and burn it for the same purpose. I can also add a few drops of any magical oils, but I do add that one to mop water. And that will help clear things out in my home. It helps clear energy that's lingering around the floor. And Van also, it clears out and then has a very protective kind of vibe. So it's part of my home protection magic. Another thing I do with my oil blends is I put a few drops of them onto cotton, like a cotton pad or a cotton ball. And I stick those into dream pillows and mojo bags so I can really smell my spell. I love that. But the main use is definitely for dressing my oils or making up a bath. Or dressing my candles with oil, or making up a bath. Now, the perfume I use is almost all made from just essential oils and like water and alcohol, because that's just what I prefer. But the perfume that you buy, the commercial stuff, the stuff from the pharmacy or from the boutique or from your favorite, perfume person, is also made from botanicals. A lot of people kind of seem to forget that, perfumey sense. When someone describes something as perfumey, they often mean unnatural and over the top. So I try not to use the word like that because not all perfumes smell unnatural and over the top. They're just made with very particular parts of the plants, the botanicals that are used to create that smell. Individual enzymes and tiny pieces and, certain parts of the fragrance of a flower can be added to a perfume. So if you look up the actual composition of your favorite perfume, what are the notes in your perfume? and then, compare that to the magical properties associated with those ingredients, I bet you'd learn a lot about yourself. And also find yourself with a very powerful potion that is already ready to go and that you already know that you love. Isn't that great? So let's talk about a perfume, a commercial perfume, a big commercial perfume. Chanel No. 5. Now, Chanel No. 5 is literally 100 years old. You might not have ever used Chanel No. 5, but you've absolutely, definitely smelled it. I promise. Especially if you've ever been anywhere near anyone over the age of 40. Or if you're over the age of 40, you're more likely to come into contact with people who like Chanel No. 5. This perfume, which smells like just perfume to people, is technically composed of rose, jasmine, orris root, which is also known as Queen Elizabeth root in Hoodoo, and natural musks. Now they use synthetic musks. Musks are smells that come from animals usually. They use synthetic versions to create these smells. So rose, jasmine, Queen Elizabeth root, it has all of the components of a love spell. But it also has components for spells for women's empowerment. Queen Elizabeth root is incredible for empowering women, for, I've used it for spells like getting the job, becoming a master at what I do, being seen as a master in my field, stuff like that. It's also used for sexual healing, success in general, and communication. All of these components. So this perfume, the point of the perfume that Coco Chanel, got this perfume guy to go for, the vibe that she wanted to create, is a perfume that was made to come across as feminine, what she considered feminine, but also empowered and liberated. And it doesn't just smell that way. Those botanicals create that magical energy. That is their magical vibe. So Chanel No. 5 really is a potion for women's empowerment, for liberation, for success, communication, for contacting your sexual self and healing any problems there. It also has some components of dream magic. So, don't wash it off at night if you don't have to. Put it on before bed like Marilyn Monroe used to. As I said, I've learned a lot about perfumes and smells and fragrances researching this episode. And I think I'm going to have to do a whole episode because, learning about base notes and top notes and how your nose picks up on these smells, it really adds an element of alchemy and magic to perfume. There are stages of a perfume. You smell different parts of a perfume in 2 to 3 different stages. I didn't know that. Very, very interesting. I personally, I pour a lot of energy into my personal smell because I'm into it. I hope how I smell sends a particular message or says something about me. Or maybe it's more accurate to say, I hope it creates a particular environment around me. I once described it so perfectly on Twitter that I saved it because I was like, damn, Paige, you got it. So someone asked, what is your sun sign and what is your scent profile? So I'm Capricorn, and patchouli is the main smell. Patchouli and what I can only describe as wet garden. Flowers, especially jasmine, and moist earth. Like I fell asleep on a bed of moss on the forest floor on a spring night. And I always describe things like this. Like smells to me, the way I describe them is unusual. But I love the cool and deep vibe of this scent profile. Patchouli really smells like wet, fertile dirt, garden dirt. When you've been digging in the garden in the spring and you can kind of smell it on your hands after. And I love that smell. It smells so, deep and cozy and natural to me. But when you combine it with the flowers, the flowery smells that I like, it really comes alive. Now it's this this blooming garden. So there's a bit, when I say slept on the forest floor, people think there's a bit of a wet, decaying smell on an actual forest floor. There's leaves and stuff that are just decomposing down there. And that's cool for the forest. But I don't really want to smell decomposing. So I find that really heady flowers like jasmine or lilac replace that decay smell or cover it up or something. And instead make all of it smell like a humid night, because these are night and dusk blooming flowers. Sometimes I like to add a little bit of basil smell, that sharp green smell of basil. I love to smell green in some way. When I put a green smell on, it makes me feel really calm and cool and, what's the word, like inquisitive, adventurous maybe? I don't know. I always, when I think of this smell profile, when I smell it all together, not just on me, but, I smell it. I think, why am I even sleeping on this forest floor? How did I get here? Should I be afraid? Is this a magic forest? Am I going to have an adventure? Is this a Midsummer Night's Dream situation? I'm instantly transported to the set of a spooky fairy tale in an enchanted forest at night while all these incredible flowers are blooming and a little bit of fog is rolling in. And that's absolutely the vibe that I want to give off. Very earthy and watery all at the same time, right? And I mean, if this smell comes across as threatening, like maybe if you would hurt me, I would bring you out to a spooky dark forest and make you disappear forever, well then, even better, that is definitely the secondary vibe I would like to give off. Okay, let's shift back to our potable potions, the ones you can drink, and talk about a kind of new and yet totally ancient kind of potion that you can use in witchcraft. Alcohol, liquor, and spirits. Alcohol is, of course, very ancient. It is old, as is its role in spiritual rituals and cultures. But today, we are talking about cocktails, modern cocktails. I rarely ever saw alcoholic drinks besides, wine or mead or a little bit of ale mentioned in witchcraft books. And it was always kind of the same, take a sip of wine, everyone shares a cup of wine, whatever. And it's only recently that I've seen witches using this particular art form, cocktails, in their practice. Last year, Michael Herkus included quite a few beautiful, creative cocktails in the complete book of moon spells. And I thought that was so exciting. I couldn't stop, thinking about that. So when the author of Witchcraft Cocktails, Julia, reached out to me and offered me a copy of her book, I jumped on it and have not been disappointed, because it really is interesting and creative. It's so amazing to, think of this drink that I used to suck back without thinking about it because I just wanted to get drunk. How much actually goes into that? How much magical energy there is included in that one drink. So I gave this book 5 crystal balls, and you can find it on my blog. It earned every single one of those crystal balls. The book's gorgeous, incredible photography, and the recipes are original. They're very original. They're based on old drink recipes, but they've all been made authentically witchy by Julia. Like, this is not a gimmick. She is a real witch. And every recipe has a recommendation for ritualizing the drink's creation, and a crystal, like you heard earlier, or a tarot card to use in your spell or to meditate on as you drink. It also features recipes without alcohol, so things like syrups and bitters and shrubs, flavorings that you can make for any kind of drink. She also has coffee and hot chocolate, and even some ciders. So while it's predominantly alcohol-based, you can get this book and make drinks for people who don't use alcohol, and she has ways that you can still include them in the fun potion magic. So let's look at another love-themed cocktail from the book. The book's divided by seasons. Our Love Witches brew is for winter. It's hot and it's warm and it's right around Valentine's Day, so it's probably for this time of year specifically. This is Aphrodite's Lust Potion. So great. Take advantage of the sensual spring energies in true goddess fashion with Aphrodite's Lust Potion. Mixing sensual hibiscus, I love it, love-inducing lavender and rose, and honey to sweeten the soul, this eye-catching pink libation will have lusty lovers at your door. Sip to enhance magical workings or to serve to your desired lover. Garnish with a lemon twist. And the energies are love, lust, and youth. So this drink combines 1 ounce of lemon juice, 1 ounce of hibiscus rose honey syrup, which again she has a recipe for and sounds absolutely fantastic. 1.5 ounces of silver tequila, 1 ounce of brut rosé, and 2 dashes of lavender bitters, which again, recipe in the book. In a stemless wine glass, combine lemon juice, syrup, and tequila. Add a few ice cubes and top with rosé. Stir, dropping in bitters as you do, visualizing the lusty energy of the herbs coming to life and opening up like a red rose. And the advanced magic for our lust potion is a tarot card. It's the Knight of Wands, the sexiest character card in the whole tarot deck, as far as I'm concerned. The Knight of Wands in tarot oozes with flirtatious, sensual energy. It's so fun. It's a fun card. His fast-paced, fiery nature can heighten the power of your cocktail. Simply stir the cocktail atop this tarot card, being sure not to get it wet. The Knight of Wands, whenever this appears in a tarot reading for me, especially a love or sex or relationship reading, it always represents a strong attraction. You know, that chemical attraction you can't quite explain. It's a pull, you know, and you just cannot stop thinking about that person. That's the kind of vibe that comes with that card. So this really is a very lusty drink, and it comes out this corally, peachy pink color that really is beautiful. Gosh, and I love tequila. Like, now I'm thirsty. And actually about tequila, in the beginning of the book, the author explains that tequila, which is made from the blue agave plant, makes it wonderful for rejuvenation, inspiring love, and magical working around stepping into one's power. So she does go over the magical associations of the actual alcohols that go into these cocktails. I found this super interesting, and I actually could have read like a shit ton more about individual alcohols, their correspondences, and, you know, history of witchcraft and alcohol that she had in this book. I could have read a whole book just about that stuff, which is why I kept looking around, and I found Amy Blackthorn's Botanical Brews. Blackthorn's Botanical Brews. Her books are fantastic. She goes into a lot of detail about each alcohol, what it's made from, where it's from, you know, what part of the world and the culture it's from, how it's made, and what all of that means. So I used both of these books and combined and contrasted their information to research this part of the episode. So I highly recommend checking them both out. Let's start with a fairly easy and exciting alcohol. Absinthe, the green fairy. You know, many people still believe that absinthe is hallucinogenic, which it isn't, but the alcohol content of the absinthe is high, and it hits you pretty hard. The main botanicals in modern absinthe are fennel, anise, and wormwood. Wormwood, this is the herb, right? It was thought to be hallucinogenic. It's not. It's a cousin of mugwort. It's also from the family Artemisia, and has long been used in magical and spiritual work. It's a really good herb for bridging the gap between the spiritual and material world, so it's good for contacting spirits and ghosts. For warding off evil or malevolent spirits, mugwort's also fantastic for that. In Chinese medicine, mugwort and wormwood are used to cleanse, really is the right word. They burn moxa, which is mugwort, wormwood, in the home to clear it of, first of all, bugs, which is great. The smoke helps clear out bugs, but also any sort of negative energy, stuck energy, or malevolent spirits. They also use moxa for body healing. They will burn it at particular points along certain meridians to clear that out. You can get moxibustion, which is a treatment that involves the smoke of the mugwort and wormwood plants. You can get moxibustion for your eyes, for your face, for certain parts of your body. It's combined with ginger at times, with gua sha massage or any other massage. It's really interesting. I highly recommend looking it up. I didn't know a lot about that because, I don't practice traditional Chinese medicine. But a lot of my herbs, I buy them from a Chinese natural pharmacy because she has the best herbs, right? And after I went in there for a long time, she asked me, she's like, what do you use all this mugwort for? She's like, are you drinking it? And I'm like, oh God, absolutely not. Yeah, hi. Sorry, kitty. And when I told her that I was burning it as an incense, she was like, oh, you're burning the moxa to clear out negative energies. I was like, oh, what? And did a lot of research on YouTube. Very interesting. But anyways, something that wormwood does do. Wormwood interacts with the pleasure and reward system of your brain. So it really lights up your hedonic hotspots, the same hotspots in your brain that interact with cannabis, with drugs, with anything that brings feelings of happiness and pleasure. Not the exact same spots, but the same system in your brain. So wormwood can induce feelings of pleasure, of safety, of coziness, and even euphoria. A lot of people have never had absinthe because for many, many years it was illegal in the United States. It's not anymore. And actually here in Windsor, we used to have a lot of Americans that came here to go to our absinthe bar because it was legal here while it was illegal in the States. The absinthe bar has since closed down, unfortunately. So if you've never had it, the flavor is black licorice. That's how you describe it. And that's actually aniseed, technically, not licorice. But it's black licorice and it's a very strong flavor. It's also very high. It's a high alcohol percentage. So if you don't like the flavor of alcohol, absinthe in the traditional way of drinking might not be for you. Just a heads up, because it's expensive. It's expensive to buy a single drink and it's expensive to buy the bottle. I'm sorry, my cat is rubbing up against the microphone. So this is Alley Cat. So if you hear her, that's her. Absinthe is something that I think would be really great before rituals where you need a little extra oomph, you need a little extra power, or you really need to open your mind, really need to connect with the spiritual world. Vodka is the simplest of all the alcohols. I thought all vodka was made from potatoes or grain, grain alcohol. But according to Julia, it can actually be made by the fermentation of any organic substance. Isn't that wild? Like, anything you ferment can turn into vodka. So vodka is kind of like the clear quartz of alcohol. It is multi-purpose. It can be blended with just about anything and carries and amplifies the energy. It's also very cleansing, very mentally clarifying, and protective. And in my experience, vodka makes the truth come out. Vodka is one most people drink when they're younger because it doesn't have much flavor of its own. Instead, it just carries the energy and flavors of the other things mixed with it. So, if you're not a big drinker but have had cocktails and mixed drinks, no doubt what you were drinking was vodka. Now, rum is probably my favorite tasting alcohol. You don't always want to taste the alcohol, but I like the flavor of rum. And that's because it is made from sugarcane molasses. Can't argue with that, right? It's so sweet. It's so beautifully sweet. And that's what makes it great for lust, love, attraction, and generally creating like a happy and upbeat vibe or environment. It's a very happy alcohol as far as I'm concerned. In Afro-Caribbean religions, so in practices of voodoo, Santeria, and other staples. So in Afro-Caribbean religions, rum is a staple, and it is offered as libations to ancestor spirits, Orisha or Loa, and it cleanses and sanctifies people, places, rituals, objects, altars, you name it. It's an important part of most Afro-Caribbean religions. You can also get spiced rum. Spiced rum is my favorite. And that includes things like cinnamon or cardamom or vanilla, which also, again, bring those properties to the rum. I also learned something new about rum, something I didn't know, but in Blackthorn's Brews, she talks about a different kind of rum type drink. So in Brazil, the national liquor is called cachaça and is made from the fermented sugarcane juice rather than the molasses. And sugarcane juice, by the way, you can just drink it. It's really lovely and sweet and refreshing. So the flavor of cachaça is somewhere between rum and tequila, but with a bite, is how she describes it. And that sounds delicious. Now I know Brazilian food and Brazilian drinks sound like our Brazilian food is so good. It sounds delicious. I'm gonna have to make a trip. And if I am mispronouncing the name of the alcohol, I truly apologize. So cachaça, made from the sugarcane juice rather than the molasses. Interesting. Gin is made from juniper berries. Juniper is like a coniferous tree. So this liquor has a pine tree flavor. I don't like it. I personally think it tastes like sucking on a car air freshener with cardboard trees. Even though I love the smell. I love the smell of pine. I love the smell of any trees, really. But to each their own. Gin is cleansing, clarifying, protective, and great for reversing curses and crossed conditions. In addition to the juniper, gin can also contain other botanicals like coriander, fennel, ginger, lavender, orris root, and angelica. So your gin can have energies like lust, love, and making wishes, along with its clarifying and protective and, curse uncrossing properties. I think that makes gin a pretty good, breakup alcohol. If you need to make yourself a potion to help heal your heart after a difficult breakup, I think knowing what's in gin now, a gin cocktail would be just the thing, if you like that. Whiskey, the alcohol, is apparently a little more complicated than I realized. Whiskey is more of an umbrella term, and then there are a lot of subtypes. So generally, whiskey is made from fermented grains of some kind. Here in Canada, we use rye. It's rye whiskey. That's Canadian style. Down south, you have corn whiskey, and this makes bourbon. It also makes Jack Daniels. It's a corn mash whiskey, but it doesn't taste like bourbon. Jack Daniels is kind of its own thing. Whiskeys, in general, are aged in oak barrels. And the length of time in the barrel, what was in the barrel before the whiskey and everything like that, affect the flavor a lot. And it gets interesting. You have some whiskeys, just like tequilas, that sit in barrels for decades, and others that, are taken out right away. And it really can affect the flavor and, the whole palate of a whiskey. All these whiskeys are different. Rye whiskey does not taste like bourbon. They're very different. So I thought that was really neat. Whiskey is a great alcohol for celebrating a harvest season. Anything to do with the harvest, abundance, growing, grounding, connecting with ancestors, your roots, your home. All of that is great with whiskey. It's also a very fiery liquor, so any sort of fire holiday, whiskey is a good one to help you celebrate. Then we have wine. The classic magical and spiritual libation. Wine is made from the fermentation of grapes, sometimes other fruits as well, but it's grapes that mainly make wine. Depending on when the skins are removed from the grapes, you get different colors of wine and flavors. You have red, white, or rosé. Red wine has a more physical and grounding vibe and represents ancestors, family, vitality, energy, and the physical body. White wine has a more spiritual vibe that resonates with the crown chakra. It's a little bit more opening. And rose is, of course, pink and pretty and romantic. It also represents balance, as rosé is kind of the middle between red and white. So red wine, the skins are left on much longer. White, not so much. Rosé, somewhere in the middle. So it's a good wine for balance. Finally, the granddaddy of all alcohols in general, but especially spiritual alcohols, is beer. Beer is the oldest type of alcohol that humans intentionally created, as far as we know. It's thousands and thousands of years old. They were probably making beer before they made a written language. So in many places, in many cultures, the creation of beer was the work of women. Women brewed beer in ancient Egypt, and that beer was used to honor and beseech the gods. It was used very highly in ritual work. It was also used in baths and things, cleansing. And kind of the other side of that part of the map, the Celtic goddess in Ireland, the Celtic goddess of the hearth, Bridget, is also the patron of beer. And according to her story, she is, the creator of beer and passed it on to women. So making beer is made by fermenting various grains, mainly hops, barley, and corn. This is another one that's great for celebrating all of those harvest times, harvest festivals. And it's also great for cleansing. It brings in abundance, and it retains all of its spiritual connection from the history of beer making. So a cocktail is a potion. It's made with alcohol and other drinks like water, juice, or syrups to, present a certain flavor, or really to create a particular experience for the person drinking it. For those who are passionate about bartending, it's hard not to see the alchemy and the and everything in their movements. The shaker is a cauldron, and the spoon is just like a magical wand, and hell yes, more cherries and swords, please. It's so interesting to watch. I also know for an absolute fact that each bartender or mixologist puts their own energy into the drink that they're making. I know it for a fact. And I'll tell you why. So in my 20s, I had a favorite cocktail or mixed drink at my favorite bar. It was called the Violent Fuck, which I love ordering, right? And I can't tell you exactly what it is because I don't know. But it was some combination of vodka, blue curacao, lime juice, and a carbonated beverage of some kind of cola maybe. So it was beautiful, and it was slightly sour. I really loved it. Anyway, there were 2 regular bartenders at this bar that I went to. Fabulous people who worked really hard, were super friendly, and had been working in bars for years. One was a girl and one was a boy, but that doesn't matter so much, except that, it tells you who they are. But their version of my Violent Fuck tasted different. So the bartender who made it the way I liked, she did all the same things as the other bartender. They both used the same ingredients. They made the same cool flips and pours, and it took the same amount of time. And the other bartender, the boy, was even like a super hot babe. You'd think that would make me like his drink more. But maybe my girl was pouring just a little extra love into it, a little extra whimsy and joy, maybe. I don't know. Whatever the difference was, I always thought that was interesting. I always thought that was real magic. I would go out of my way to go to there were multiple actual bars inside this bar. I would always go out of my way to go to her bar and order a drink from her, because there was just something about the way that she made it. I definitely let the hot guy make me the drink too. And it was still good. It was still tasty. It just wasn't the same. It was different. Isn't that cool? So while the alcohols themselves have magical properties, the other ingredients that you mix into your potions, and most importantly, the intention that you mix into your potion, really bring it to life. So in the book Witchcraft Cocktails, before we get to our drink recipes, there is a section of recipes for bitters, shrubs, syrups, and botanical infused alcohols that you can make at home. And it starts pretty simple, simple syrup, grenadine, pretty standard. And then we have blackberry shrub, bergamot ginger syrup, jasmine cinnamon honey syrup, hazelnut chamomile bourbon, rosemary saffron syrup, and jasmine gin. Fantastic. I can't believe I never thought to infuse my alcohols with my own flavors before, considering that's basically how you make a tincture. You're just using less plant matter and more alcohol, right? Super cool. And she does tell you how to make all of those things. So if you are someone, or if you're making drinks for someone who can't drink alcohol, these things like bitters and shrubs, especially shrubs are made with fruit, they give you really great, a basis for alcoholless drinks that still have a lot of flavor and a lot of botanicals and fruits and magical properties to them. And a super fun fact that I learned from Miss Blackthorn's book, even the pop or soda, depending on where you live, that you mix with alcohol in even very basic cocktails can have magical properties. Most of us know, the funny old story, Coca-Cola once contained a little bit of real cocaine, right? But where the flavor and the caffeine of cola comes from is not from cocaine or the coca plant. It's the cola nut from the cola tree. So cola is Kola. And when I look at, pictures of the tree, its leaves remind me a lot of the coffee plant. And just like the coffee plant, the people of, the world, but mainly West Africa, where the cola nut is from, have been harvesting and using it for thousands and thousands of years. Many people would chew on them for energy, right? They're pumped full of natural caffeine. And interestingly, indigenous people in South America and the Andes, they would do the same thing with coca leaves. They would chew on the leaves. You get a little bit of the energy from the naturally occurring cocaine in it, or caffeine from the cola nut. But it's also very clarifying for your mind, just like caffeine is when we drink it in tea or coffee. So more importantly than that, the cola nut has always been an important part of the indigenous, cultures and religions of West Africa, particularly in Nigeria, Sierra Leone, and Liberia. Cola nuts are used as a sacred offering during prayers, during ancestor veneration, and they're a gift for significant life events like naming ceremonies, weddings, funerals. They're given to politicians and chiefs from other nations to, welcome them, to give them something of value, to show respect. They're also used in a traditional divination system called obi divination. So that the cola nut is divided into 4 lobes, and you have a little bag of them, and they're cast onto a special wooden board, and the trained diviner can read the patterns that they fall in. I don't know how true this is. This is just an internet thing I read, but many people of West African descent, or who practice West African religions, if they live over here in North America, a lot of them will use pieces of coconut instead, 4 pieces of coconut. Really interesting. It also reminded me a little of divination with cowrie shells, where, you know, they're just cut in a certain way so that they have a certain shape, and they're thrown down, and you read the patterns in which they fall. Very interesting. So Coca-Cola was created from cola nuts and cocaine, the coca plant, and sugarcane in the 1880s. And unfortunately, it's moved to synthetic versions of all of those things to continue creating the flavor. But Coke was still using actual cola nuts in their recipe until 2016. So those of us who've had cola, you have consumed real, you know, bits of the cola nut. Maybe not the cocaine, depending on your age, but the cola for sure. Now, even though they don't still use cola in our cola, you can still think of this sacred tree when you drink it, when you mix it into your magic potions. And to me, I think it makes sharing that drink just even more special. You know, cola nuts were so highly valued that they were used as legitimate currency once upon a time. And you could even kind of say that they are, because they're given as gifts at social events like weddings. They're still a sign of respect, of admiration, and spiritual blessings. They're still very valuable, and they're included in things like dowries. So I think it really adds another layer to a simple rum and coke made by a friend. You know what I mean? I think just making a rum and coke for someone, there is so much magic pumped right into it already. Plus, rum and coke is very sweet and tasty. So let's finish off our magical potions with another love potion from Witchcraft Cocktails. This one is called Love's Last Word. A blend of purifying juniper-based gin, lime juice, aphrodisiac-associated green chartreuse, and sweet cherry liqueur, Love's Last Word is a strong love potion. Infuse the gin with jasmine, and this cocktail becomes an elevated expression of soul love. Enjoy with a partner to honor your connection, or alone to inspire love in a fulfilling way. Top with black cherries for an eye-catching result. And again, there's a lovely picture of this one, and I'm going to post it on social media because it does look very, very cool. So you need 1.5 tablespoons of lime juice, 1.5 tablespoons of green chartreuse, 1.5 tablespoons green chartreuse, 1.5 tablespoons of jasmine gin, which there is a recipe for, and 1 ounce of maraschino liqueur. So pour your lime juice, chartreuse, gin, and maraschino liqueur into a cocktail shaker. Add ice and shake. Contemplate the alchemical mixing of ingredients as you prepare the drink, comparing this act with the alchemical mixing of souls. Double strain the potion into a chilled coupe glass. Draw a heart in the air with your finger above the glass. And then, of course, you can top with black cherries for an eye-catching result. The advanced magic with Love's Last Word is the Lover's Tarot card. The Lover's card in tarot represents attraction, beauty, harmony, love, and alignment. If using this cocktail to celebrate a loving partnership or to align yourself with your soul's true path, pull out the Lover's card as you mix the ingredients. And I thought this was great because it really talks about the different meanings of the Lover's card. The Lover's card is not always about a relationship with someone else. Sometimes it's about the relationship with yourself. How aligned you are with your true purposes, your true values, feelings, everything like that, unifying two differing parts of yourself, as well as unifying two different people, bringing them together for, united under a common emotion, which is love. So that's Love's Last Word, and the energies are spirituality, love, and divination. Well, my witchy friends, this episode went on so much longer than I meant it to, but I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it as interesting as I did. I thought this would be just a really fun episode, correspondences, drink recipes, etc. But I actually learned a lot more about plants, about plant magic, and about potions, which I already liked making by researching this episode. And it definitely made me think about alcohols, a bunch of different alcohols, in kind of a different way, and made me see them a little differently. So I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. Thank you so much for joining me today on the Fat Feminist Witch. I hope you guys all have a fabulous Aquarius new moon, which is hopefully later tonight if this episode comes out when I plan for it to. So if it's around February 11th, 12th, happy new moon in Aquarius. If it's later than that, I hope you just have a wonderful rest of your week and weekend. And thank you so much for joining me today on the Fat Feminist Witch. If you'd like to learn more about me or the Fat Feminist Witch podcast, you can check out my website at thefatfeministwitch.com or find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. To support the show, you can, of course, buy my books, Green Witchcraft and the Grimoire Journal. Both books are written for witches of all skill levels and help you begin or deepen a relationship with the planet and craft a very personal, magical practice. If you'd like to make a small one-time donation, you can go to my website and click Buy Me a Coffee, or you can join my private monthly membership group at patreon.com/thefatfeministwitch. Every month we have live meetups, we read books together, we discuss witchcraft. It's just a great place where you can meet other like-minded witches and get new perspectives, get new ideas for your own practice. If you have a witchy product, service, or publication and you want to reach a magical audience, you can advertise here on the show. So just go to advertisecast.com/thefatfeministwitch to get started and find all the rates.